Well, greetings. My name is Baron Gardner. I am a veteran educator, about 20 years, 20 years in education, and about 15 years in our local school district, 10 years here at AV High School. I have a history here in this community of, well, I have a long history with, radical left-wing politics and locally involved in issues around police brutality and education, pretty much. And I'm here with my dear friend Lucia to discuss the Black Panther Party, some lessons and legacy. Okay, so go ahead, click to the next one, please. So when we talk about the Black Panther Party, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background, a lot of things happening that a coalescence of events that made this organization even possible. We're going to take a brief look at the Black Panther Party, primarily in the first 4 years of the Black Panther Party, some of the lessons, some of the legacies that they hold. And we're going to look at basically the rise and the fall of the Panthers after about 1969 and 1970. So first, some background. We have a lot of things going on. Number one, we have something called the Great Migration. The Great Migration is something that took place between like 1914 and 1970. You had lots of Black folks leaving the southern states. Millions of Black folks began moving north, and after World War II began moving west. Okay, so you begin to have lots of Black folks moving into California during and after World War II, up through about the mid 1960s. So areas that had very small or no Black population, almost overnight, over a few years, had huge Black populations in Los Angeles, San Diego, Oakland, Seattle, and all of these were hubs of Black Panther activity. So you have all these Black folks moving into these areas where they weren't there before. And when I listen to my elders tell the stories about the police, about the LAPD and the Oakland police and the things that they faced growing up. They used to recruit police from places that, that my ancestors, that Black folks were moving from, that knew how to handle Negroes. So they went and hired police from Texas and Louisiana and Alabama to come out to Los Angeles. And they were absolutely brutal. Also, this is, when we look at the Panthers, they start in '66. This is after some of the major civil rights legislation. You had the Voting Rights Act in 1964 and the Voting Rights Act in 1965. But in the wake of that legislation, people didn't see any improvements in their day-to-day lives, okay? Particularly people outside of the South, in the North and in the Western states. So there was this disillusionment with the civil rights movement. There was this disillusionment with the whole project of integration. And there was disillusionment with this whole idea of nonviolence. Excuse me. We also had the death of Malcolm X in 1965, which many say, and many of the Panthers themselves will say, that they are the carriers of Malcolm's legacy. So the death of Malcolm X helped to inspire the Black Panther Party, as well as the Watts Rebellion or the Watts Riots in 1965, which basically kicked off the riots that we saw in 67, 68, 69 throughout the United States. The Watts Rebellion was one of the first of the modern 1960s rebellion, in response to the same thing that in response to the same things that the rebellions that were taking place a couple years ago were in response to, which is police violence. So that was very important as well. Also, there was the Vietnam War that was going on, which radicalized everybody. From my understanding, I wasn't there, but when I speak to my elders and I read, I see how the Vietnam War was something that grabbed radicals of all different backgrounds. You know, that was a real inspiration for many of these radical movements. And also revolution as a world trend. You know, this is the late 60s. You have Mao's China and the Cultural Revolution. You have revolutionary Cuba. You know, you have North Vietnam, the Vietnam War. Revolution is a trend in the world. In the 1960s, all these African countries started getting independence, you know, through politics or through bloodshed. So revolution as a world trend, revolution was actually viewed as an option in the 60s because it was something that was going on in the world. So all of these things are cooking. All these things are cooking in this in this pot that the Black Panthers are going to emerge from. Go ahead, please click it. All right, so in the beginning, man, when we look at the start of the party, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, they founded the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in Oakland, California in 1966. They were two community college students, and they were getting involved in some of the school politics and the local politics. And what they noticed was with all of these groups, all they do is talk. Nobody had a plan. Nobody had a plan of action. So they got together. I'm so sorry. The sounds like the gardener next door is making a bunch of noise. I hope, can you hear me well? I hope it's not much of a bother.
We don't hear anything. You're good.
Okay, cool. So they created the 10-point program. Can I edit this? I don't think so. Since you have the can you click that link on the 10-point program? Okay, and if you scroll through it, I'll take a look at a couple of the major things. They said, number one, we want freedom. The power to determine the destiny of our Black community. They said we want full employment for our people. If the white businessmen will not give full employment, then the means of production should be taken and placed in the hands of the community to employ all of its people. Okay, so when we talk about seizing the means of production, this is Marxist-Leninist language. We want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of our Black community. Again, there's class consciousness and consciousness about capitalism. What else we have here? Decent housing fit for the shelter of human beings. We want education for our people that exposes the true nature of this decadent American system. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in present day society, which is why we're here. And that's why Ms. Reyes called me to begin with, so we can get into some of this education. We want all Black men to be exempt from military service. This is during the Vietnam War. This is during the draft. We believe Black people should not be forced to fight in the military service to defend a racist government that does not protect us. We will not fight and kill other people of color in this world who are being victimized by America. We'll protect ourselves from the violence and the racist police and racist military by whatever means necessary. We want an immediate end to police brutality and the murder of Black people. We want freedom for all Black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails. We believe that Black people should be released from the many jails and prisons because they have not received a fair and impartial trial. We want all Black people, when brought to a trial, to be tried in the court by a jury of their peers or people from their Black communities. Okay, And lastly, we want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. Okay, peace. This is very, this is very important. So if you take a look at this here and you look at the last paragraph, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We see that the Panthers are getting inspiration from the Declaration of Independence and using this document against the authors or the inheritors of the traditions of those authors. They're using that same language and flipping it and using it against the system. If we can go back to the presentation. So that was the 10-point program. And these are, these are young folks in community college. The BPP was formed, and I'll be referring to them also as the BPP or the Panthers or the party for shorthand. So it was formed in response to police terror, particularly after the murder of a young man named Denzel Dowell in Richmond. The Panthers spoke at rallies and challenged the system. That there was not going to be any investigation until the Panthers got behind the family and got moving and brought some attention to it. If you take a look at the picture, those are pictures of Mao Zedong's red book. It's a red book of quotations from Mao Zedong. In order for the Panthers to buy their first weapons, they sold these books, Mao's red book. So Mao was very influential at the time. I believe it was Eldridge Cleaver who wrote that at the time Mao Zedong was the baddest MFer on the planet Earth. And in many ways he was. Can you go ahead and click? I should have another picture there. Oh, no, not that one. If you click the picture itself. There we go. So this is a cover of the Black Panther Party newspaper established in 1967, artwork by Emory Douglas. So the newspaper is very important, man. The artwork, the newspaper, this is before the internet, so you had to put stuff in people's hands for them to have it. And the artwork, even though Emory Douglas wasn't the greatest artist, man, it captured people. The depiction of the police as pigs, I mean, very, very provocative art and message. And they also, they were known for their police patrols. This is what got them rolling. The police were blowing people away in Oakland and the Bay Area, and they organized police patrols to follow and patrol the police to make sure that people's rights weren't being violated and that people weren't being brutalized. If you go ahead and click police patrols, I have an excerpt from the movie Panther, which shows what some of these confrontations may have looked like, at least some of the first ones. Go ahead and click play, please.
Now that's what we call a Panther patrol. We see a brother getting busted, we check it out, make sure the pigs don't go beating on him. He's taken downtown, we try to hook him up with a lawyer, bail.
So what? It's like we're policing the police.
Damn straight. The pigs don't like it. It messes up their cut of the drug trade.
Dig it.
Every day, there's something new. You pull out your bag Hey, y'all, come out here. It's the police. It's the brothers. Come on. Get some backup. Get the hell out of here. Get out of here.
So, Huey, so what's your telephone number?
Well, I confirm with you my address. That's all I'm required by California law to do. We ain't broken no law.
Then what are you doing with that gun?
Well, what are you doing with yours?
Let me see that rifle, son.
No. This is my private property. According to California law, we got a constitutional right to bear arms.
That's true.
Okay, move along. Go on about your business.
Wait, brothers and sisters, no! You ain't gotta go nowhere, this is your business! Stay right here! The law says, as long as you stand a reasonable distance, that's 8 to 10 feet to be exact, you got a right to observe the police carrying out their duties. From what I can see, you're standing 22 feet away from this man. So brothers, ain't no law being broken.
That's right. You stay right where you are. You ain't got to go nowhere.
Is that gun loaded, boy?
Fish and game law clearly states it's unlawful to carry a live round of ammunition in the chamber of a shotgun or rifle in a vehicle. Pig.
Refer to him as officer. Then don't you refer to him as boy.
Well, is it loaded?
I tell you, officer, it wasn't, but now it is.
It's a badass nigga. Now, for the last time, boy, what do those guns mean?
They mean, pig, that the Black Panther Party declares you try to brutalize our community, you try to take our weapons. We'll shoot you, man.
Back.
Jesus, I think I done died and gone to heavens.
That's good enough, I'm saying. That's good enough, Lucia. Go ahead and take us back to the presentation. Thank you so much. So with scenes like this, you know, people saw this, this captured the imagination of the youth. Coming out of the civil rights movement, coming out of the marching and the singing and the nonviolence and, you know, watching people be brutalized on television and all of that stuff, for people to come out and see that, you know, the Panthers standing up, bold, strong, berets, leather jackets, cocking that slug into the chamber and you know, in the presence of those police officers and the whole community, you can see how it you know, how it captivated the people, particularly captivated the youth. Okay, so next. So the gun played a central role with the Panthers. In California at the time, it was legal to carry a firearm. If it was registered, it wasn't, you weren't pointing it in a threatening manner. California was basically an open carry state. Up until 1967 with something called the Mulford Act. Okay. The word was that there was a debate for a bill from an Oakland assemblyman to basically ban open carry in California. And the Oakland Panthers, you know, they hopped in, you know, and these are young people, you know, they hopped into their mother's cars and drove the hour and a half to Sacramento and basically stormed the Sacramento state capitol while it was in session. And while they were armed, okay? This is one of the things that led to the national notoriety of the Black Panther Party, because while they were there, the media was there. And Bobby Seale hops in front of the mic and says, you know, basically lays out what's going on for the nation to see. If you can go ahead and hit the blue link.
Anyway, the next thing I know, I'm marching on the Capitol because we're up there to protest a bill they're trying to put in to keep us from carrying guns. Ronald Reagan is over here on the big front lawn. I got a statement to read.
The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense calls upon the American people in general and the black people in particular to take careful note of the racist California legislature, which is now considering legislation aimed at keeping the black people disarmed and powerless. At the very same time, racist police agencies throughout the country are intensifying the terror, brutality, murder, and repression of black people.
Ronald Reagan is escorted off the lawn by the state capitol police. I says, we can go inside somewhere. Isn't there a spectator section?
I have these Black Panthers up here with guns on the center floor. You get it. Let me get in the office. Wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. Right in the office. Wait a minute. Oh, he's under arrest. Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? You place him under arrest. Go ahead, brother. Am I under arrest? Take your hands off me if I'm not under arrest. Am I under arrest? I'm telling you to take your hands off me.
They put trumped-up charges of conspiracy and felonies on everyone who went in to exercise a constitutional right and said they had no right to bear arms in a public place. The California Penal Code Section 12020 through 12027, and also the Second Amendment of the Constitution guarantees the citizen a right to bear arms on public property.
All right, go ahead and bring us back, please. Thank you. So again, man, this gets nationwide press and brings nationwide attention to Oakland, basically. Also, Huey P. Newton is engaged in a shootout with Oakland police the night of October 27th to 28th in the wee hours of the night. He was actually celebrating getting off of parole or probation, and he was out hanging out. And he ends up getting into a confrontation in the middle of the night with Officer John Frey, who calls in for backup. And all three, both officers as well as Huey P. Newton, end up on the ground shot. John Frey is dead. So Huey Newton is charged with murder and then ultimately charged with manslaughter. Okay. And goes to prison. He will eventually be convicted, but Huey Newton going to prison, if you can go ahead and click it to the next one, led to the Free Huey rallies. Okay, and this is another thing that led to national notoriety for the Black Panther Party. The Black Panthers allied with white radicals for a national Free Huey campaign. And not just white radicals, that was the most shocking part about it, I guess, to people at the time, but radicals of all stripes. The Brown Berets, centered in Los Angeles, signed on in 1968 with the Free Huey campaign. It was, if you can click it again, I got another picture there. So these rallies were huge. I mean, people attended them by the thousands. If you can click one more. And this lady right here, Kathleen Cleaver, basically coordinates these nationwide, this nationwide Free Huey movement. And Huey becomes a symbol of radicalism. Huey becomes a symbol of revolution. People that don't know who the Black Panthers are know Free Huey. It's on t-shirts, it's on buckets, excuse me, it's on buttons, it's on flags, it's everywhere. So Huey becomes this, he becomes a big deal, and this is another thing that helps to catapult the Black Panther Party nationwide. Go ahead and get us to the next one, please. All right, so it's during this time, as we get to 1968, I call this time trying times, because the organization is a little bit over a year old. I want to stress that these are young people. The leadership is in their early 20s, except maybe for Bobby Seale, who's a little bit older. He's probably in his late 20s or early 30s at the time. Eldridge Cleaver, an author, who wrote this book, Soul on Ice. It's a national, basically a bestseller, and it's quite autobiographical. And he's just he's basically telling his story and how he was radicalized and why he was in prison. He was actually in prison. Eldridge Cleaver was actually in prison for rape, and he was very candid about it in his book Soul on Ice. When I talk about the Panthers, I don't want to romanticize the Panthers. I want to talk about the ugly side too, you know. For decades, you know, the Panthers were painted as basically a street gang, you know, a threat to the establishment. They were a threat to the establishment, right? But they should have been, you know. But they were painted as basically a negative force. And in response to that, some of us have this idea of the Panthers. We wanted to challenge that negativity with positivity, but in doing that, we're not doing history a favor by romanticizing them either. So we want to kind of tell, you know, I want to try to be as clear cut about these things as I can. In '68, Lil Bobby Hutton, which was their first, Huey and Bobby's first recruit, he was 18 years old. He was killed in a shootout with police. He was actually with Eldridge Cleaver at the time. He was coming out of, I think it was from up underneath the house that was tear gassed. He came out basically in his underwear to prove that he wasn't armed, and the man was shot down. He was shot 12 times unarmed. There are daily Free Huey rallies at the Alameda Courthouse. The Los Angeles Panthers, 3 Los Angeles Panthers are killed in the shootout with police. Huey Newton is convicted in '68. Eldridge Cleaver and Kathleen Cleaver end up fleeing to Cuba and then Algeria to escape charges. There's law enforcement infiltration. So all of this stuff is going on. And these are basically, I mean, these are basically kids. These are people in their early 20s. Some of these are high school students, and they started this organization to change the world, and all of this stuff is going down, you know, and they have to navigate through all of this stuff. Okay. Go ahead and get us to the next one, please. When we talk about the Panthers in terms of ideology, in a lot of ways, it was a mixed bag. They started out as straight up kind of Black nationalists, wanting Black people to have control over the politics, the economics, and the businesses in their communities. However, as the years advance and just the times themselves, these are revolutionary times. The Panthers moved from a more narrow Black nationalism to a more class-based, socialist, and internationalist analysis. Okay, they have an analysis on imperialism, and they begin to see themselves as more than a narrow nationalist force. They begin to see themselves as the vanguard of a revolution, not just in the United States, but in the world. And they see their role as very specific and very special because they are in what they refer to as the belly of the beast. You got revolution going on in Asia and Africa. You got revolution going on in Latin America, okay? And being in the United States, which was the cradle of imperialism at the time, they saw themselves as very important, as the vanguard of a worldwide revolution. So in many ways, it was a mixed bag ideologically. They'd only been around a year or two, and they never really had a chance to sort these things out. All of this stuff is happening so fast. Next. Oh, you know what? Can you go back one more time, please? To the previous slide. Sorry. Yeah, there you go. Right there. So I wanted to click to show the internationalist analysis. Can you click internationalist, please? There's a link here to, and I'm not going to read it all, but Letter to the National Liberation Front of South Vietnam, where Huey P. Newton, a couple years later, actually offers Black Panther troops to go to South Vietnam and fight imperialism. He opens it up in the spirit of international revolutionary solidarity. Okay. Huey P. Newton sees himself, the Black Panther Party, Black people, poor working class people in America, and the Vietnamese as having the same enemy in American imperialism. So I just wanted to show this here letter to show that internationalist approach or perspective. Can you take us back, please? And we'll hit the next one. So starting at the end of 68, we have the survival programs. I believe the slogan was survival pending revolution. If the revolution is not going to happen today, people need to be able to survive until then. And the Panthers set up all types of local programs, free breakfast programs, free food drives, shoe drives, people's medical clinics, sickle cell anemia testing. Sickle cell anemia primarily affects African Americans. Ambulance services, liberation schools. If you can click the picture, I got a few pictures there as well. All right, so free grocery drives, food drives, a couple more. Go ahead, continue. And I think there's one more. There you go. Franklin Lynch People's Free Health Center, Black Panther Party. I mean, you had people, youngsters were dropping out of medical school to work at the local Panther clinics, and people just wanted to be involved. In some ways, this created some divisions. When we look at the ideology of the Black Panther Party, you had those that were, hey, people from the streets, where this, where the traditional civil rights movement kind of focused on the middle class. Groups like the Panthers, they wanted people from the block, people from the streets, people coming out of prisons, and they wanted to turn them into revolutionaries. And at the same time, you have people of more middle-class backgrounds coming out of colleges and joining the Black Panther Party because they want to be involved in the social programs, you know? So it created kind of a schism, you know, this revolution versus reform type of thing. And we'll take a look at how the FBI took those divisions and made them even bigger. Go ahead and continue. So the Los Angeles chapter. Now, Los Angeles and Black Panther Party history is something else. I mean, this was, you know, we hear about Oakland, we hear about Chicago, probably the chapter that had the most issues with the police, the most violence, the most shootouts, at least for me, the most fascinating to read was the Los Angeles chapter, founded in 68 by a guy named Alprentice Bunchy Carter. Now, Bunchy Carter, they used to refer to him as the mayor of the ghetto. He was a member of the Slawsons, which was basically a local street gang. I think they were from, I want to say like on the east of the 110, down Slawson past, I don't know if you know Los Angeles, on the east side, south of the Pueblo del Rio housing projects and stuff like that. Now, Bunchy Carter organized many of the local gangs, many of the local Black gangs, and organized them and brought them into the party. I mean, literally brought the entire gangs into the Black Panther Party. So his stature in Los Angeles is monumental until this day. I mean, Bunchy Carter, when people talk about him, people from that era, people that were around him or heard of him, I mean, their faces light up when they talk about how charismatic this brother was. Unfortunately, in January of 69, we end up having a shootout between the Panthers and another local rival Los Angeles group called the US organization. Can you click the picture one time, please? Now, the US organization was headed by a dude named Ron Karenga, later known as Maulana Karenga, and he was actually the founder of the holiday Kwanzaa. But in the 1960s, he was the leader of the US organization. And they had a split over leadership over the movement in Los Angeles. And we're going to see more of these splits. It seems as though they're nationally coordinated. It seems as though somebody else is involved. But what ends up happening is this, man, the Black Panther Party represents the more a revolutionary thrust, and they have a revolutionary analysis and a revolutionary culture. While the US organization wanted to stress more things like Black capitalism, African culture, or return to African spirituality. They saw the problems facing Blacks in America as an issue of culture, while the Panthers analysis saw it as an issue of power and that the people need to seize power. Next, click the picture one more time, please. What ended up happening, UCLA had a program where they they were recruiting many of the brightest students in Los Angeles, and to give them access to higher education. So it was this program at UCLA that brought in these high school students, community college students, young adults, basically trying to prepare them for a UC education. And it just so happens that all of these the most intelligent students coming from that area, coming from South Central and Southeast Los Angeles, many of them were revolutionary minded. Many of them were under the influence of either the Black Panther Party and the US organization. And some of these issues spilled over in UCLA. It spilled over into an actual shootout where the founder of the Los Angeles chapter, Bunchy Carter, was murdered, as well as John Huggins, who was from New Haven, Connecticut. He and his girlfriend, Erica Huggins, came out to, or who would later be Erica Huggins, came out to Los Angeles to join the party. And John Huggins was killed there as well. And there's a basically like a little monument, a little memorial plaque there at UCLA at the site where these two gentlemen were gunned down. And we will return to this later and look at what were some of the sources of this tension, what were some of the outside forces that were manipulating basically these teenagers and young adults. All right, get us to the next one, please. In Los Angeles, the local Panther office was located on 41st and Central, which is really right near the housing projects, near the Pueblo housing projects. Throughout 68 and 69, nationwide, Panthers are victims of violence, trumped up charges. There seems to be a coordinated effort to come after the Panthers. There was a shootout with the Panthers in New Orleans. The Oakland Panther office was firebombed. And in December 8th of 1969, there was an attack on the Los Angeles Panther office. And man, this was basically, they defended that office. They held, instead of retreating, they defended the office and shot it out with the police for, they say, about 4 hours. And this basically militarized the corner. If you can go ahead and click that link, Attack on Los Angeles Panther Office, there's a short film.
Police was surrounding the Panther office. It seemed like it was a battle. They had about 5 or 6 people who trapped up in the building shooting, and whatever the Panthers brought out, they brought out something bigger, I even seen a tank rolling up the street with police department on it. When I went down to the Panther office a couple of days later, they helped clean out the building. When I went up there, I had to wear a gas mask because the fumes were so strong. I seen bullet holes all in the walls, We had a group outside. I said about 200 or 300, a police car came around, and a man got up out of the car and said that this was an unlawful assembly, you know, would you please disperse? The people didn't leave, you know, so the police, they got out of their cars, and they started beating heads again. And one of the sisters that was out there was Angela Davis. She got beat that night. From that incident, I realized that we can't use the gun because if we pick up, you know, a 45, you're gonna pick up a rifle. You know, if we pick up a rifle, you're gonna use a tank. So I guess we're just gonna have to wait.
Thank you. So the go ahead and continue. We'll hit the next one. Now we also have Chicago is also well known. Now the Chicago chapter started in '67. A young Fred Hampton joins in 1968. He's the chapter chair by 1969. Now this is a very, very young man. He's about 20, 21 years old. He joins the Panthers when he's about 19. So he's the chapter chair by 1969. And again, he's in the streets. Now, he's not the same as Bunchy Carter. Carter is a street guy. Hampton, on the other hand, comes from a middle-class family. He was a member of the NAACP, went to night schools around the area. But I mean, again, the times, as he becomes more politically engaged, he becomes more street-oriented and sponsors a non-aggression pact among the local gangs, a ceasefire among the local gangs in Chicago. The Panthers eventually did split with the local Chicago gang, the Blackstone Rangers. Again, one of these strange incidents, one of these strange divisions that just kind of seems to pop out of nowhere. We'll take a look at where some of this stuff comes from later. He also organized the multiracial Rainbow Coalition. He goes around Chicago. Not only did he unify and organize the black gangs, he goes to the poor white section of Chicago, and they organized the Young Patriots, which is basically analogous to the Panther Party. Or it helps to organize the Puerto Rican group, the Young Lords, which started out as a street gang in New York that became radicalized. The local, as people don't know, Chicago has a pretty historic Mexican community and reaches out to the local Brown Berets and organizes the Rainbow Coalition, and reaches beyond the black community and tries to organize poor folks of all these different stripes and backgrounds, because they're facing the same issues: poor healthcare, police brutality, bad housing, lack of, poor education in schools, gang violence. All of these things that are going on are common to the poor folks in his area. And he begins organizing these people of different ethnic backgrounds, but organizing them based on what they have in common. And that's one of the things that made Mr. Hampton dangerous as a 21-year-old. Next. So Fred Hampton had to go. A young man named William O'Neill was busted for some petty crimes, and this is what they used to do. This was routine. So William O'Neill, as a young man, had an option to go to trial and do time for his petty crime, or join up with the local Panther office as an informant. And he eventually becomes Hampton's bodyguard. And he's present the night Hampton is murdered. In their apartment, Mark Clark and Fred Hampton and other party members were actually drugged by O'Neill. O'Neill drew up floor plans of Hampton's apartment and passed them on to the local police, who were working in conjunction with the FBI. So in the morning raid, and you can just look at this picture, man, and look at the police smiling and grinning as they carry Hampton's body. In the middle of the night, they bust into the apartment, shoot down Mark Clark, who was sitting guard, and proceed to basically riddle the whole place with bullets. And they shot up Fred Hampton as he was sleeping in his bed, and murdered him, and shot his wife, his pregnant wife, who was sleeping next to him, though she didn't die, but she was shot, and she was pregnant, and she lived, and the baby also survived. Fred Hampton Jr. If you can go ahead and click Murdered in Their Chicago Apartment for the link, there's a short video to go with it.
We say all power to all people. We always say the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that. You're going to have to say that I am a proletarian. I am the people. I'm not the pig. You've got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pigs. The people are going to have to stand up against the pigs. That's what the Panthers are doing. That's what the Panthers are doing all over the world.
Fred Hampton was the chairman of the Illinois State chapter of the Black Panther Party. He was assassinated December the 4th, 1969. He was assassinated as the result of the work of an agent provocateur. William O'Neill made an agreement with the FBI to infiltrate the Black Panther Party Illinois chapter as a result of him being locked up for car theft.
My recruitment by the FBI was very efficient, very simple, really. I'd stolen a car and went joyriding over the state limit, and they had a potential case against me, and I was looking for an opportunity to work it off. And a couple of months later, that opportunity came when FBI agent Roy Mitchell asked me to go down to the local office of the Black Panther Party and try to gain membership.
He infiltrated the chapter and proceeded to bring illegal weapons in the chapter, to draw a map of the chapter's location. The police attacked the chapter, killed Fred Hampton, killed Mark Clark, wounded everybody else in the chapter, and as a press release the next day said it was a shootout between the Panthers and the police.
This is where our chairman had his brains blown out, and he lay in his bed, sleeping at 4:30 in the morning.
Someone came into the room, started shaking the chairman. Said, Chairman, wake up, the pigs was laughing. Still half asleep, I looked up, and I saw bullets coming from, it looked like, the front of the apartment, from the kitchen area. They were, pigs were just shooting.
And this is a case of an agent provocateur that led to the death of several people and the wounding of several more. Agent provocateurs are used today in a similar capacity.
All right.
We say all power to all people.
All right. I think I got another picture. Can you click the picture? And this is Fred Hampton Jr. at Fred Hampton Sr.'s grave. And the it is said that the police shoot up his gravestone every year. I'm not surprised by that. That doesn't surprise me at all. But anyway, Mr. Hampton's legacy, his legacy continues. Next slide, please. Okay, so by the early 70s, again, this internationalism, okay, by the early 70s, by about 1970, the party had international relationships with officials in, you know, communist China, North Vietnam, North Korea, Cuba, Algeria. And they were trying to fit themselves into this revolutionary trend that was going on that was going on in the world. This is 71. This is Huey P. Newton after he got out of prison in 70. In China, he brought a whole delegation was invited to China, and this is Huey P. Newton with the then premier Chow Enlai. Next screen, please. Next slide. All right. Now the counterintelligence program. I've been kind of hinting towards it throughout the presentation. COINTELPRO was an illegal FBI program to covertly disrupt radical organizations. Okay, so you can take it back to the 1950s with the Communist Party. They came after the Communist Party. They came after a bunch of different radical movements. But by the late 60s, the Panther Party was its primary focus. Okay, there was primary focus. In fact, the FBI director, J. Edgar Hoover, basically said that the Panthers were the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States, and pointed to their free breakfast program as the linchpin of it, because they weren't just giving breakfast to children, they were also indoctrinating children. I would say teaching the children. So man, they fomented divisions between the Black Panther Party and the Blackstone Rangers in Chicago. I mean, literally juvenile stuff, man, writing letters from one leader. The FBI would write a letter to one leader and sign it as another leader and send letters back and forth, spreading rumors, using informants to create division. There was already a split between the Black Panther Party and the US organization. It's said that the head of the US organization was working with the FBI. And I say this not to trash Karenga or the US organization, because ultimately, man, these are children and young adults. And they are, you know, these guys, they're in their teens and 20s, and they're dealing with the United States government. They're dealing with the FBI. We can't expect people like, Karenga, the US organization, these young, militant-minded young people, to be as sophisticated as the FBI. So they created hysteria and chaos with these informants, targeted assassinations, just like, with Fred Hampton in Chicago. Geronimo Jijaga's wife was also murdered. They heightened tensions in the split, which I haven't talked about yet, which we'll get to shortly. There was a split between Eldridge Cleaver and Huey P. Newton. When Eldridge Cleaver and Kathleen Cleaver fled to Algeria, Huey P. Newton was still in prison. And then you have Bobby Seale trying to hold together this national organization. And then you have the FBI creating all this chaos. It's a completely untenable situation. And they also imprisoned Panthers on false charges. Most notably was Panther Geronimo Jijaga, who was an Army veteran, came back to Los Angeles, taught the Panthers how to shoot, taught the Panthers how to get organized. And he was framed for murder of a couple in Santa Monica while he was in San Francisco. But none of that mattered. He still did 27 years in jail before he was released. So the imprisonment stuff they didn't necessarily even care if the Panthers came up guilty or not. When Panthers went to prison, they had to try to get them out of jail. They had to raise money and fight cases, and all this stuff cost money, and this would bleed the Panthers. So with all of their leadership facing all of these charges, they can't keep any money in their coffers. They can't maintain a functional organization while they're trying to free Huey, and they're trying to free Geronimo, and they're trying to free Bobby Seale, who went to prison for a little bit, and they're trying to free this person and that person. It became a big mess. If you can click that COINTELPRO link, that'll give us a little bit more background.
King
There's only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. This is an anonymous letter sent by the FBI to Martin Luther King, urging him to commit suicide. He was one of the primary targets for the FBI's illegal surveillance program in the 60s called COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program which targeted many civil rights groups, such as the Black Panthers and the American Indian Movement, and activists like Stokely Carmichael and Malcolm X for more than a decade. The purpose was to, quote, expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, and otherwise neutralize the possible threats against the existing order. The program was exposed in 1971 when a group of activists stole documents from an FBI office on the night of the Muhammad Ali-Joe Frazier fight and leaked them to the press. Today, COINTELPRO is something people recall from the past as the darkest FBI program exposed so far.
That's it.
Here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
All right. So again, man, this is the counterintelligence program. It was aimed directly at the Black Panther Party. Next one, please. So by the 70s, the demise of the Panthers. By the 70s, the party was in shambles. It was plagued by division, infighting, ideological splits, government informants, court cases, violence. Huey Newton and Eldridge Cleaver led rival factions of the Panthers. Elements of the party were driven underground and splintered into different groups, right? You had the Republic of New Africa, the Black Liberation Army, all these different groups that began to splinter. Huey began to devolve into drug use and criminal activity, leading to his exile in Cuba to escape some charges. While Huey was gone, the party struggled under the leadership of Elaine Brown until Huey Newton's return. By the end of the 70s, there are a couple dozen members left in Oakland, and their last school was closed in 1982. But when we think of the Panthers and we think of that boldness, man, and we think of that era, that's pretty much 1966 to 1969, literally 3 to 4 years. And you think of the impact that they had, in those years, and these were young people. It's actually quite remarkable. Next slide, please. Quote from Chairman Fred Hampton: "We don't think you fight fire best. Excuse me. We don't think you fight fire with fire best. We think you fight fire with water best. We're not going to fight. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. We say we're not going to fight capitalism with Black capitalism, but we are going to fight it with socialism." And I think that quote, it right there, represents the best of the height of the Panthers and the best of the Panthers ideologically. Next. And thanks for your participation. I know there are some major things that I missed. I couldn't hit everything, but I wanted to get some of the main things happening nationally and locally with some of the groups. I hope I did a good job, and I hope you learned something. If you want to reach out, those are my email links: bgardner@avhsd.org and unfadable80@gmail.com. Thank you very much. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to ask.